1, 2, 3. Let's do this. Welcome back to Skylab-Gaming with your host, Skylab-Gaming Creation. Now, you guys may or may not have watched the other video, but if you did pick up Slime Rancher, you might be wondering, well, what the heck do I do in this game? So here's a couple tips that I really hope will help you guys out if you do end up playing this game. So first up, you have the plort market here. I explained this a little bit previously in the video, but basically plort, or the poop that you get from slimes, has a certain base value. So pretty self-explanatory, but the green up arrows here means that the plort is worth more than usual. The red down arrows mean that it's worth less than usual. And we don't have it on here, but there's a little dash that means it's the base value. So let's take, for instance, this rock plort. It looks like it's down in value, so I don't really want to trade it in right now. So here's a cool thing that you can do. Alright, so this is the silo. Basically, you can store things here in this adorable looking little contraption for when the market increases or when your plort is worth more. So all you need to do, there we go, once we get it working, is shoot it into the silo and it'll stay in there until you basically come and collect it again. Now, the cool thing about the silo, activate that, is that you can actually get additional storage for it. So you can have up to 4 different plorts or items in here. So, on to the next bit here. This is the incinerator. I also touched on it previously in my other video, but I just want to explain some of the things you can do with it. So it's pretty handy because let's say that you're carrying an item that you just don't want or you want to get rid of without cluttering up the place. All you have to do is shoot it right into the incinerator and it gets burned up. That's pretty much it. Now, the neat thing about the incinerator is it'll pretty much incinerate anything. So you want some KFC? I got you. You want a double helping? I got you. Now, let's say for instance that you want to burn up a slime. I'm just kidding, I'm not a monster. Take you back to where you belong. There you go. So another thing that's really helpful, especially early on, is this machine right here, Jetpack Upgrades. So you're going to see a couple missing because I've already taken a couple, but there is a booster upgrade and there is a jetpack upgrade. Both of these are super useful. The first one will let you run longer without expanding as much energy. Really, really useful for getting to place faster, and believe me, once you start unlocking some other areas, it can be a little bit of a haul to get back home. So the second upgrade, like I talked about, is the jetpack. This is just fun. I mean, who doesn't want to fly around their ranch, right? Its actual usefulness comes into play when you have hard to reach places, such as this cliff right here. Really, anything that's above you or below you, you can either jump up to it or float on down to it. The jetpack makes previously inaccessible areas now accessible. So the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is farms. So farms, once you buy them, are basically empty plots. So they look something like this. Let me vacuum all this up. So they look something like this when you first get them. Now, the plots themselves can have anything planted on them. So if you shoot a pogo fruit into here, you'll get something like this, a pogo fruit tree. And if you shoot a carrot into it, you'll get a carrot farm. So shoot one in, and then it'll give you a little timer here. As you can see, it takes a little while to start the harvest. So what can we do to get back to the morning or speed up time? Well, we can head right on back to the house here. Now, the house serves 2 primary functions. One is star mail. Now, the star mail, while maybe not all that useful, is definitely entertaining. And it is interesting to see that there may be other characters in the game that we just don't know about yet. That, and some of them are, well, pretty interesting. We're not going to tell Bob about what we did with the incinerator earlier. So, like I said before, the second useful thing you can do is sleep until morning. So we're going to go ahead and do that. 6 o'clock? Who gets up this early? Oh yeah, I'm a rancher. So, as you can see, it's morning outside, and this does two things besides just speeding up time. If we go over here to the carrots, we see that it now says 63:40 and counting. Now the interesting thing about carrots is that they can technically be harvested before this timer is out. So you can come over here and vacuum them up out of the ground. Now, when they're actually ready, or when the timer's 0, they'll be laying on the ground, something like this, a little easier to vacuum up. The same thing goes for the pogo fruit or any type of fruit tree that you plant. However, the harvest time on these is typically a little bit longer. So the other thing that sleeping does, besides passing time, is that it gives your plorts a chance to reset their eating timer. So, as you can see here, these guys are plorting it right on out. Now, with the timers reset, you can feed them, go to sleep, and then feed them again. So these guys are looking pretty hungry. And all right, this wasn't a planned part of it, but we're gonna show you guys how to use the incinerator real quick here. Take this guy. Alrighty. Okay, that hurts. All right, shoot him into the incinerator. Shoot him into the incinerator. Here we go. All right. Okay. No! Don't eat him! Don't eat him! Ah! You monsters! All right. And see, good thing we had the incinerator. So one thing I didn't talk about in this game is the possibility of an infestation. As you can see here, they've cleaned out they've cleaned out one of my cages completely and turned them into tar slimes. Tar slimes are useless, more than useless, they're dangerous. As you can see with them chomping away at my health. Okay. There we go. I didn't plan on showing you how to deal with a tar infestation, but this is one way. So the nice thing about tars is that technically they can't exist in the daylight, so that's one pretty good advantage. However, it looks like they completely decimated this cage. Well, live and let learn, right? Anyways, another method of getting rid of the tar slimes if you don't have an incinerator, or you just want to get rid of a slime for some reason because you're a horrible monster, is to shoot them into the ocean. Farewell, brave slime. Bloop. So that's just one way of doing it if you don't have an incinerator. It's a little bit more of a walk, but it's not that much farther, and considering the incinerator's 450 new bucks, it's a good way to save a little bit of cash. So, back to business. Another thing you may have noticed is that these slimes, like I was talking about earlier, are actually hybrid slimes. So these are pink slimes combined with tabby slimes. Now what happens when you combine two slabs is that the diet of the slimes is combined. Now, we've got to do a little bit more experimenting to see just what happens, but in the case of most pink slime hybrids, they'll still eat mostly everything. So take, for instance, these rocky tabby largos. They'll actually eat meat and veggie, which is still pretty much everything. Wow, these guys are happy. So another thing I want to talk about is chickens. If we come over to the chicken coop here, we can see these chickens being weirdos. So in the chicken coop, if you have more than 12 hens, they actually won't produce any more chickadoos. The chickadoos grow into hens, or in some rare cases, they grow into roosters. Now, this rooster's been here for a while, hence he's an elder rooster. Now, the elder hens and the elder roosters, they can't produce any more chickadoos, so they're not really good for anything. What they are good for is feeding to your slimes, once you actually get to them. Here we go. Oh, wow, they really get chomping on them. So like I was talking about with the hens, you actually need one rooster and one hen to start a chicken coop or start chickens reproducing. Now, the hens can be found in the wild. Typically anywhere that you see the hens, you'll see a rooster here and there, but as you get towards the corner of the maps, roosters are a lot more common. Now, another note is that the chicken coop is a special type of building. I actually think it costs a little bit less than the pens, and it just kind of has this low barrier, but it's not like the chickens are going to fly away or anything crazy like that, so that is a pretty good advantage. Something about stopping the chicken uprising, but I'm not going to listen to that. don't seem to be too bothered by it, so I'm just gonna keep on shooting them. Yeah, they don't seem too bothered. So the next thing I want to talk about, and you've probably noticed this if you've been watching the video, you see these little plort collectors. Now this is an upgrade to the cage that you can do. Now cages, they typically come with just this base level here. That's the only thing they come with. Now you can upgrade them to give them double walls, this net on the top, which I find significantly more useful, auto feeders, which I don't have any at the moment, and these plort collectors. Now these plort collectors, they activate every couple minutes, and basically they'll suck up 2 types of plort, and they'll store them right in these little bins. Now they'll hold up to the max capacity, so they'll just stay here for as long as you let them stay. The neat thing about them is that you can come collect them wherever, so it's basically like having another silo if you want to look at it that way. A much cheaper way of handling inventory if you ask me. So when you want to collect them, you just come up to the collector here, and you right click to suck them up, and that's pretty much it. So the last thing that I want to talk about is long shotting and clicking. Now, I feel embarrassed for not knowing this, but you can actually hold down the click button instead of just, rapid fire clicking, and it'll continue to shoot stuff. So what am I talking about? Just take a look at this wall here as I hold down the left click. It continually shoots things. How could you not know that, right? So the other thing I also want to talk about, and this is just a silly thing that may or may not be that useful to you, but you can actually shoot stuff a pretty far away. So let's take, for instance, this plort. Let's see how far we can shoot it away here. A little bit to the right. Hey, look at that. So the cool thing is you can really shoot it as far as it'll go. I mean, this little cannon will, or backpack, excuse me, will shoot pretty far. So let's see if we can make a long shot here. Pretty long shot. A little bit more. A little bit more. And that's why you take math, kids, because I obviously can't hit anything this far. Maybe you guys can do better. And the other thing is, too, these slimes will go pretty far, so let's just suck one up here. Now, the Largos don't actually get sucked into the gun, but you can hold them here by holding down the right click, and then shoot them into the sky. Bloop. He doesn't even seem to mind. Alright, back into your cage. Thank you guys again for watching. Some of these tips are pretty silly, but I hope they do help you out in the game. And if you haven't already, check the link in the description below if you do want to support Slime Rancher and the devs. This game is fantastic, it's silly, it's fun, and I would suggest it to anyone that's interested in having fun with video games. Until next time, Skylab-Gaming.